Okay, let us start. Yes. So, okay, so we'll look at a few new concepts in this class. So we have till now looked at lists. We have looked at some list notation. We have looked at list comprehension and some basics about strings, etc. So what we'll do now is to look at something that you have encountered quite often till now, by now, but which you have not formally seen. So I'll just introduce that, which is polymorphism. Okay. Okay. So let us look at these functions. Okay, my length of empty list is 0, my length of x colon xs is 1 plus my length of xs. My reverse of empty list is empty list, my reverse of x colon xs is my reverse of xs plus plus singleton list x, my init, etc. So you have all these functions. What can you tell about these functions? Is there anything very special about these functions? As opposed to say something like, I don't know, something like as opposed to a function like prime or some such, some function on numbers, or even a function on strings. So you have already seen functions on strings, right? Like capitalize, which will make every letter, which will convert every letter to its capital form. Yes. So what is is there a difference between a function like capitalize, which is a function from list of characters to list of characters, to is there a difference between that function and all these functions?
This can work on functions with data types of any data type.
Yes. So these functions it does not matter what the type of the elements in the list are. Okay. No matter what the list is, these definitions themselves the definitions are independent, or the definitions do not depend on what kind of elements you have in the list. Whatever list it is, it will work. Okay. So such functions are called polymorphic. Okay. Functions which whose definition is the same no matter what data type they are applied. Okay. That is called polymorphism. Yes, and it's clear because these functions, if you look at the code, it's clear that none of them look into the element of the list at all. Length will just count the number of elements. It doesn't care what the elements are. Reverse will just reverse the elements, but it will never, the operation doesn't depend on what type the elements in the list are. And this init is also similar. Okay, init, head, tail, all these things. Okay, they will work over lists of any type, and such a thing is called polymorphism, and not just for lists. Polymorphism is a general concept which works whenever you have a code that doesn't depend on the actual type of the elements. Okay, so but you will most often see it in lists, but you might also see it in some. We'll come to that. We'll come to other examples. But so the point is that for polymorphic functions, you use the type variables to denote flexibility. Type variables could be A, B, C, T, whatever. Okay. Instead of using concrete types, int, float, bool, etc., in the type, when GHCA or whatever gives you the type, you will use these letters A, B, C, T1, T2, etc. Yes, these are placeholders for types, and you can have A is some type, and the list A is the type of list of any elements. Okay, the type of list of elements of any type A. So, for instance, you have these. If you go back, the types of these functions are my length is. So, can somebody tell what the type of my length is?
Sir, could you repeat the question, please?
What is the type of my length? The way I have written
A
closed bracket.
No. I didn't hear clearly. Can you repeat again?
List to integers.
List what? List A to integer. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
A within square brackets. What about my reverse?
Sir, A to A, brackets A to A.
List A to list A.
Yeah. So you should say list A to list A. Okay. That is the way to read it. Okay. Okay, list of A to list of A. What about my init?
List of A to list of A.
Okay, great. Okay, and here are the built-in functions. Head, the type is list of A to A. Length, the thing list of A to int. I think integer, but I have just written int. Reverse is list of A to list of A. Take, for instance, which we saw earlier, is int arrow list of A to list of A. Okay.
Sir, is there anything specific about A, B, and C, or you just
No. You can use anything. You can say
anything?
list
Okay.
T. You can use list of T. You can use list
Okay.
of
Okay.
whatever. Okay. The main thing is all A's should be instantiated in the same way. So, for instance, you cannot apply. You cannot say that if you have concat, for instance, or plus plus. What is the type of plus plus?
List A to list A.
List A arrow, list A arrow, list of A. Okay. And then you cannot hope to do plus plus on a list of integers and a list of characters, for instance. Okay. So all the A's should be instantiated in the same way. That is what this means. Okay. So this is about polymorphism, but not every function can be completely polymorphic like this. Okay. And here is an example. Suppose you define a notion of sorting. Sorting means putting the elements of a list in order. Can you give, and we will see various sort algorithms later, insertion sort, merge sort, quick sort, etc. We'll see. But can you give type list A arrow list A? So clearly you want it to be applicable whether you try to sort list of integers or list of characters or list of pairs or whatever. But can you just write list A arrow list A?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So they should be comparable.
Yes. Who said that? Mohammad Rizwan. So the elements should be comparable. Okay. Orderable. So you should say this is before that, etc. So provided the type A admits some notion of order, then you can sort a list of elements of type A. Otherwise, you cannot sort, right? Okay. Yes, that is the thing. Can we sort any type of list? For instance, you cannot just sort a list of functions, right? So clearly, you can create a list of functions. If you define factorial to be int arrow int, and if you define +3 and *5, this you know, these take an integer and return an integer. But I am writing int arrow int. Suppose you this is your list. Okay, your list is these three functions. You can clearly create a list of functions, not just list of lists or whatever. You can create list of functions, and so there is no harm at all in creating this. For instance, if I go to this thing, so you can say my func list. Yes, you can do this. And now, what is the use of such a list? Well, you can actually think of applying all the functions in this list to a particular number, right? You can clearly conceive of such a thing, right? So you can say apply funcs on a particular. This is something that takes an integer and returns a list of integers. And
Sir,
yes,
so I have a doubt. So for func list, right? You've written, shouldn't it be into list int? Because like you input a number, it gives you a list of like factorial +5 and.
No. It is not doing that. No, this is a list of functions. I'm not inputting any number. What is the type of factorial?
It takes integer.
An integer and returns an integer. So this is actually a list of functions. I have 3 functions here. And another is +5. Okay, which will take any number and add 5 to it. This is *3, which will take a number and multiply it with. Okay, these are three different functions. So I have a list of each of whose elements is interoid.
Oh, okay, right.
Right. So now I am trying to show you how to use this. I can think of an apply funcs where I have a list here. I take a list of integer and I take another integer. And what I am supposed to do is that I'll put the integer first. Now you can guess what I want to do. Can Srimati, can you tell me what apply funcs on n? If I have n and if I have empty list, then it is empty list because there is no function to apply. Now what do you do if it is f followed by f's? There is a first function that is followed by the rest of the functions. Now
Sir, fn followed by apply function fsn.
yes, nfs.
So then I should, oh yeah.
Right? So I can do such a thing, right? And now you can actually ask for, so let me go here. Load lecture. Right now I can ask apply functions. Oh, it's not loaded yet. Okay, so let's try again. Apply functions. Let me apply to 10. What functions do I apply? All the functions. Great. So do you see what is happening? Something is wrong because factorial 10 shouldn't be. Is factorial 10 really this long?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Okay. So if you want, I can make it integer. Then uniformly I have to change.
Sir, does GSA not load multiple functions at a single time?
What do you mean by load multiple functions?
Like here, you first load the funds list, then apply funds at different time.
What do you mean by load?
Means here to perform, like execute the function on the GSA.
Yeah, I don't load the function. No, I am loading the file.
Yeah, so in this file, there are two functions you
It
define.
will load everything together. It won't. But now I said load because I made a change. Whenever you make a change, you have to come back and reload.
Yes.
Oh, and first time it did not load because I hadn't saved it properly.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, got it.
Okay. Fine. Now, so you can say apply functions, whatever I did. 10 func list, and you get something like this. Okay. Now, so at least I've told you why it is useful to have. It is sometimes useful to have a list of functions. Okay. But now.
So what is the 15 and 30 in the result?
15 is the result because 10 plus 5. 30 is 3 times 10. I'm applying every function in the list of functions to the argument 10.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, look at this. This is what I'm doing. Look at the definition that I give. Yes? Okay.
Sir.
Yes?
Sir, sir, in this the definition of func list, so didn't we define technically just a variable? Like this is not a function, right? This is just a variable.
No, what is not a function?
Func list.
A func list is a name for a list of integers. For a list
Yes.
of functions from integers to integer. Factorial is a function.
Yes, sir. But in Haskell, I don't like. Are we allowed to define things like this? Like just storage variables.
Right. You are allowed to. Even in the last class we showed this. So these you can think of them as So these are some kind of degenerate functions which do not take any argument but always give a value.
Okay.
Even in the last class this thing came up. I told you it is, don't call it a variable, call it a value. It is a name for a value.
Okay. Got it.
The func list is the name for a particular value that is given by, and that value itself happens to be a list of functions. Okay, great.
But internally, Haskell thinks of the value also as a function, right?
Right, a function of 0 arguments.
Function of 0 arguments. Okay.
Yeah, I mean not always, because there are some primitive values etc. which are handled differently. So not always, but fine. So conceptually you can think of it like that. Okay, let's come back then. So you have a list of functions now. How do you sort a list of functions? Does it even make sense to sort a list of functions?
So we could do it pointwise. Like if we take in a value and see.
You can do it pointwise, but the point is, okay, how do we compare f less than g for functions? You can do it pointwise, but you will see that there is an issue even with this factorial. What happens? So is factorial applied to -1 less than factorial less than plus 3?
Okay. Yeah, that is an issue.
It won't even terminate, right? So how do you determine? There is a problem, right? We'll come to the same thing when we consider something called EQ. We'll come to that in a minute. Okay, so the solution for this is to say that we don't just do list of A, arrow list of A. On the other hand, you don't want to go extremely primitive and say, okay, I will have a sort function. So I don't know. So I'll say sort.
Sir,
Yes.
sorry, why can't you sort like func list? Because I mean, you can compare like factorial plus 5 into 3. I mean, in the sense, if you write a number like.
Right. But the point is, what is factorial -1 in my definition?
Oh, right. Okay, fine.
It doesn't terminate at all. And in general, if somebody gives you a function definition, you do not know whether it terminates on all inputs.
Okay.
Right? So you can't depend on that for any of your built-in ordering or any such thing, right? That is why.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, as somebody said, compare the functions pointwise. What they mean is that f is less than j, f is less than or equal to j if f of x is less than or equal to g of x for all x in the domain of both f and g. Okay. The domain of f and g here is integer. So you want to check whether f of x is less than or equal to g of x for all integers. There are two problems with it. Number one, factorial does not terminate for certain inputs. What is the second problem with this?
For some positive inputs, into 3 will be greater, and for some positive inputs, factorial will be greater. So
then you will say no, it is not less than, etc. But there is even more fundamental problem. Integer is technically there is no bound, no. Int is the one which has a minimum bound and maximum bound. Integer means every number. How do you sit and check that? Potentially it is all integers. That's an infinite set. So how do you just come back and report that f of x is smaller than g of x? F is smaller than g without having tried it for every x. Yes, that's another problem. So I mean, it is not easy to think of any way to compare functions in general. Okay, therefore, in general, you cannot give the type list A arrow list A to sort, because there are types A which cannot be compared. Okay, so only for those that you can compare, you can give a type like this. And there, the way we achieve it is to say RDA in place. So even in the last class, somebody asked why I write two equalities here and why I write only one arrow for one line, one dash for the arrow. So this arrow here, if you can see the highlighting, this arrow here is the standard notation you use in mathematics for function from here to that. Okay, it is a function whose domain is list of A and whose codomain or range is list of A. Whereas this thing here is what is called a class constraint. Okay, so I'll write it out here. So this thing is a class constraint. Okay, isort might be a little difficult right now. I mean, I need to define sort, etc. But minimum, let's say, listing. Yes, I want to return the minimum element of a list. So clearly you can apply this to either characters or integers or pairs or whatever, right? Or even lists if you want, right? So the minimum, if you have some notion of order among lists, but for all this, you need to have a notion of order within this. Let us try to finish this definition. What is list min of?
Sir,
Yes.
so could you explain this class constraint thing? Like,
Yeah,
in some...
I'm explaining in a minute. Now,
Okay.
what is list min of empty list? There is nothing useful you can say. So you say error, no, list is empty. Okay, list min of singleton list X is just X. Okay, what is list min of X followed by X's?
X or list min of X's.
Yes, so you should say list min of let Y equals list min of X's. First find list min of X's. In if X is less than or equal to Y, then Y, then X. Or you should say, oh, let me not do all this. Right, but the point is here, what are you saying? I'm list min of X's will return an element of type A. I have an element of type A, which is X. What am I doing between X and Y? I'm comparing them. I'm checking whether X is less than or equal to Y. Okay. So this function cannot be written for arbitrary types list of A. This function cannot be defined on lists of arbitrary type A, but only on lists, but only where the elements have a notion of order on. Is it clear? So who asked this question of who asked me to again explain class constraint?
Sir, Rajdeep.
Is it clear now what I'm doing inside the code? In the code, I am appealing to some operator or some function or some functionality, right, of elements of type A.
Okay.
Right? And this will not hold for all types A, but only for certain types. Okay. As I mentioned right now, there is no notion of ordering between two functions. So integer arrow integer does not belong to, if A equals integer arrow integer, then you cannot say, oh, A belongs to the type class R. So in other words, what I should say is that a type is a collection of values. Whereas a class is a collection of types, roughly, with common functionalities. For instance, ORD is the class of all types which allow you to do a comparison, like this, less than or equal to, etc. Is it clear?
Similarly, is foldable also a class?
We'll come to that. Who's asking about foldable?
Sir, Rajdeep.
Don't ask it about now. I'll talk about it later.
Okay.
We'll talk about foldable much later. Maybe much later. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Talk about foldable in.
Can we use maybe A?
Maybe also. Yes. What?
So in the list min definition, so can we use list A to maybe A?
Yeah, you can do that. Yes, great. You can do that. Yes, let us do that. Why not? Let us be systematic. Having introduced whatever, then in this case, you will say nothing. Okay, in this case, you will say just X. And in this case, you will say case list min of just Y means that you will return just of. Actually, you can use the function called min xy. Min is a function that is provided by any type that belongs to the class ORD. Okay. Okay, so this I should say list when excess. Okay, is this clear? If the list is empty, I am returning nothing. If the list is non-empty, then I first look at the minimum of x's. If it is nothing, then I say just x, because there was no minimum at all for the tail, but there is this head element that is the minimum. And if the minimum of the tail is just y, then you say just minimum of xy. And the fact that you use the min function here means that your a is not an arbitrary a, but the type A should belong to the type class OR. Is this clear?
So we're doing this just.
Sir, what is y here?
What is?
Y.
Y is just some variable.
Y.
Y is just some variable. So that is a pattern. You are saying list min of x's is of two forms. It is either nothing or it is just some value, and that value I am calling it y.
So will this doing a just and unjust thing, will it make the program very slow?
Yes, it might look it better, but right now I am just using it this way. We'll look at unjust and just later. Yeah. What are you suggesting? You want to do unjust of this thing?
No, sir. I'm just saying, will it make it very slow? Just doing just so many times.
No, it won't make it very slow at all. It will make it quicker. So I mean, it won't be much slower than your program with error itself. Was that your question?
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, is this program clear? Yes, but the point I want to make is that the fact that you use this min here means that you have to, this function applies not for every list of every type A, but only those types A where an ordering relationship, an ordering relation is supported. Okay, and writing this thing is called a class constraint. Okay, so let me get back. By the way, please ask me questions. If there is something that you want to ask me that you put in the chat, please ask me here, because I am not.
Sir,
I don't have the chat window open. Yes.
So why did you use in after, like in the previous case, let y is equal to list min x is in?
That is just this thing. You know, go back to the slides where I give you various ways of defining functions.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes,
So if you use let, you have to use in. If otherwise, you have to use where.
Okay. Sir.
If you use case, you have to use off. This is just syntax, basic syntax. So I'm just mixing and matching all this so that you get practice with all these forms of expressions.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, let me return. Okay, so this introduces this notion of type class. A type class is a collection of types with the required property. So the type class ORD contains all types whose values can be compared. Okay, so in some sense you should think of it as ORD is a predicate that evaluates to true if the type T belongs to the class ORD. So the terminology is to say that there is an ORD instance of type T, or that is more, you just say T belongs to the class ORD. That is easier. Okay, T belongs to ORD is better. T is an instance of ORD. T belongs to ORD. You can say any of these things. The main thing to note is that if T is an instance of ORD, then all these comparison operators are available for you. Is that clear? Equal to, not equal to, less than or equal to, greater than. Okay, and any other functions that can be defined based on this. Yes, and what are all instances of ORD? Okay, lots of things are instances of ORD, which you will see. Let me now go to the Haskell library thing, and let's even go to some prelude or whatever. Int, let us say. Let's just go to data.int.
Sir.
Yes.
So how do we define maybe? Like, I don't know, is there a type or?
Maybe, right. Okay, so I'll tell you right now. Maybe is not a type. So maybe is not a type. Maybe is not a type class. But what maybe does is maybe is like a function that takes one type and gives you another type. Okay, so such things are called type constructors. Not just maybe. That is because if A is a type, maybe A is a type, right? No matter what A is. So therefore, maybe is a type constructor. not just maybe, there is another type constructor that we've been looking at for a while now. That is list forming. If A is a type, list of elements of type A is a type, right?
Yeah, sir.
So therefore, list forming. Okay, if you want to think about that as a this thing, that is a so whenever A is a type, list A is a type. So the list forming can be thought of as a type constructor. Okay, it takes a type and gives you another type. And now, who asked me what is foldable? Somebody asked me.
Sir Rajdeep.
Yes, foldable. Just like you can bunch together various types under a type class, you can bunch various type constructors under some common this thing, and that is where foldable comes. Okay, foldable. So the list forming is an instance of foldable.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, which is why if you ask for some general function plus plus, let us say, I don't know what plus plus is defined as. Let's see. Type of plus. This is list arrow or type element. Yes, you see, Rajdeep. So instead of writing list A here, you are saying TA. What is T? T is any type constructor. There, T is anything like list, maybe, etc., that takes a type and returns a type. Okay, and you are saying there are lots of ways of constructing types. Another way of constructing a type is this. So if A and B are types, it need not be applied only to a single type. If A and B are types, the pair AB is a type. So the pairing thing can be thought of as an operation at the type level. It takes two types and returns another type. So that's another type constructor, etc. And this foldable is a constraint, just like EQ is a constraint that applies on types. Foldable is a constraint that applies on type constructors.
So can we say that foldable is a type constructor class?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but
sir,
sorry
maybe
to
is
the
a
others,
type
because he asked, I mentioned this. We'll come to this later. So don't be overwhelmed by all this. You don't need to understand this right now. But at least today you should understand this EQA implies whatever. Yes, Harish, you had a question?
Yeah, yes, sir. Maybe A is a type constructor. So just A is also type constructor?
Just A is what is called a value constructor. Because just is not giving you a new type. Just will give you a new value. If you give it a value of type int, it will give you a value of type maybe int. Okay?
Yeah.
So you have class so let me just, in the comments I'll write. So you have values. Okay, then you have types, which are collection of values, which share a common structure, property, whatever. Collection of values that have some common attributes. And then you have type constructors. Produce a new type from existing types. And examples of type constructors are, maybe list formation, forming pairs, etc. Okay. Right. In fact, even this is arrow is a type forming operator, because you give it two types, it will give you the type A, arrow B. Okay. So in fact, everything is like that. That is type constructors. Then you have type classes. That is collection of types with some common functionality. Finally, you have type constructor classes. But those are also called type classes, really. So for type classes, example is EQ, odd, num, show, integral, fractional, etc. So type constructor classes is type constructors that share a that share common properties.
Sir, you said type constructor classes also fall under type classes because type constructors are also types.
No, not type constructors are also types.
Okay.
No, I didn't say they fall under type classes. I don't think
Okay.
they use the terminology, is what I meant.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's all I meant. So you say foldable, traversable. We might not even see all this in the course. You don't need to worry if you don't understand this. I'm just, those who understand at an abstract level, understand it. You don't need this. I emphasize that you don't need any of this for completing our assignments or understanding basic Haskell program. Okay, I'm just telling this for people who are curious. Till the level of type classes, we need to understand, mainly because GHCA itself gives you these type. If you ask it for a type of something, it gives you this thing. How are you to understand, make sense of this thing? Okay, so you need to go and say, oh, information on foldable. Okay, information on foldable. If you ask, it will give you some information on foldable, but it will first say instance foldable list formation. See, you see this instance foldable square bracket, which means that, okay, formation of lists, that the type constructor that takes any type A and returns list of A belongs to the class foldable. Okay, so therefore an instance of one, this is the most general type that you can give to LM. The most general type that you can give is this. But if you want to give a more concrete type, you can actually say EQA implies list A arrow, list A arrow. Okay, because list formation is also a foldable. So this is my advice to you. Whenever you are doing a program and you see GHCI give you some very, very general type like this, okay, you can try to give me a default type, but the default type will not give you a polymorphic type. You see, it will just say something random like this. Okay, you don't want that. So an option is to just check the information about whatever type class it is in foldable. Okay, foldable says at the very least, this list formation is a constructor of it's an instance of foldable. The maybe constructor is an instance of foldable. Finally, you have type constructors, type constructor classes. Along with type constructors, you have what is called value constructors. Okay, value constructors are basically just nothing. And sometimes the same syntax is used for the type as well as value. For instance, to form a pair, you just use this. That is the if you have x and y, x of type A and y of type B, then the pair type is A comma B within parenthesis. The pair is x comma y within parenthesis. Okay, so there is no the same notation is used. Okay, and what about list forming? For list forming, you have colon, which is a value constructor, and empty list, which is another value. Okay, value constructors construct new values from existing values. They are just another name for functions. Okay, and type constructors construct new types from existing types. This is all just some terminology that I'm establishing right now. Let's get back here to the slides. ORD is clear right now. Forget about all the others. ORD is this. And for T to be an instant, okay, so there are some requirements. If you just look at these two operators, equal to, and not equal to, that is the functionality provided by any type that belongs to the class EQ. EQ means equatable, let us say. Okay, types that support equality check. EQ. Okay, let's look at this in a little more detail. Right, so if T is an instance of EQ, then the equality check and inequality check are defined for T. If T is an instance of ORD, then less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, etc. are all defined for T in addition to equal to and not equal. Okay, so let's get back to sorting. The correct typing for sort would be to use a class constraint. As long as A is orderable, then as long as A belongs to the type class ORD, quicksort is of this function is of type. This function is of type list of A, arrow list of A, provided A is orderable. Okay, that is how you read it. Is it clear? Is it clear how to read this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And so you should know, yeah, if A is an instance of ORD, quicksort is of type list A, arrow list A. Yes, so coming back to LM, How do you type lm? So lm of x empty list is false. Lm of x y colon y is either x is equal to y or lm x y, but you are doing the equality check here, right? And therefore, at the very minimum, your the list, the elements of the list should allow for an equality check. And again, I'm going back to the func list example. You cannot go and check whether factorial is for some function f belongs to func list, because you cannot check for equality of functions. Again, equality of functions can be defined by saying f of x equal to g of x for all x, but that would be a problem because f of x might not terminate. So this is really the issue. And the other problem is that your domain of f might be infinite. So what does it mean to check it for all x? Okay, those are the two problems, like I mentioned. And in fact, this is some very fundamental thing about computer science, because if you are able to check that something terminates something or something does not terminate, then yeah, exactly. So f equal to oh, so here I have to fix the font here. Anyway, f equal to g implies that for all x, f of x terminates if and only if g of x terminates. Okay, not only that f of x and g of x are the same, that this terminates if and only if that terminates. That's a problem, because the halting problem, you will see all this in your computer science education. You will see that there is something called the halting problem, for which you can write no program at all. Okay, no program can be written for the halting program that works on all inputs. Okay, so so therefore equality over functions is not computable. This is just an example. I needn't have mentioned this at all here, but just to tell you that not all types A will allow equality checking on them. Okay, and function types are a fundamental. Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
I understand halting problem.
You don't need to understand it. Halting problem says given a function and a value. Okay, so you want to give a function as input and a value as input to this halting problem. It will tell you whether the function applied on that input terminates or not.
Okay.
Yes, that is the halting problem. And Turing was a mathematician, some say father of computer science. He showed that you cannot write a program that will in general solve this halting problem for all inputs.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, right. So you don't need to worry about those 2-3 slides. I don't know when we wrote this. I don't know for whom I wrote this. Sorry. Okay. Some of you might get it, some of you might not get it, but those who don't get it, please don't worry about it. Okay.
So, sir, an example of the halting problem is the one that you showed in the first class, that unsolved problem thing that eventually halts.
Or not, we do not know it.
Okay, okay.
But there are certain problems which you can certainly, you can prove that there is no algorithm which works for them.
Okay.
That is the halting problem is one such instance. Okay. You can show that there is no function whatsoever that will take an arbitrary function and a value as input and return s if and only if the function halts on the. Okay. But anyway, doesn't matter. I'm sorry. So maybe if you want, I can edit out those things from the slides and upload. But anyway, so let's get back to EQ. EQ is therefore the collection of all, the class of all types that allow the equality check. And the moment it allows the equality check, it will also allow the, it allows for the equality check and the inequality check. Actually, you can see that you can define one from the other. Okay, if you define equality, then you can define inequality to be not of, so A not equal to B if and only if not of A equal to B, and A equal to B if and only if not of A not equal to B. Okay, so that's one thing. And yeah, so the typing for LM is, one typing for LM is EQA implies A arrow list A arrow bool, but as you see in GHCA, it insists on giving you an even more general type, where it even abstracts out this list forming and says foldable A EQA implies, foldable T EQA implies A arrow T A arrow. Okay, T applied to A. T is a type constructor that is applied to the type A, that gives you a new type. Okay, but anyway, you don't need to worry about that. The nice thing is that if A is of type, if elements of type A can be checked for equality and elements of type B can be checked for equality, then you can check elements of type pair AB for equality. How do you check a pair XY and another pair X prime Y prime for equality?
X
Point
equal
wise.
to
Yes, x equal to x prime and y equal to y prime, right? And both the type A, the type of the first coordinate and the type of the second coordinate should support equality. Similarly, if EQA, then EQ list of A. Yeah, if elements of type A allow for equality checks, then elements of type list of A also allow for equality checks. How do you check whether two lists are equal?
We can check element wise.
Yes, from first element, second element, third element, exactly. That is it. And similarly, list of A, etc., etc. Okay, but not. But you cannot say EQ. If EQA and EQB, you cannot say EQA A arrow, right? Because that's a function type. You cannot check equality of functions. Okay.
So,
Right.
so but what if the list is infinite in the third point?
That is
equality
very
is defined on A and equality is defined on
right.
B.
Right. Equality cannot be defined. So, but still, the notion makes sense. Okay, because if two lists are infinite, you can at least tell whether they are unequal, right? Because then they will differ at some coordinate, at some finite point. Yeah, there is nothing which tells you that this equality check will succeed always, or that it will even terminate. What you are saying is true. If you have two infinite lists, then I cannot check for equality. No, I can check for equality. Haskell allows for it, but it will not terminate. Yes.
So what if we take the two same list and try to compare, like infinite same list?
No, even the two infinite lists which are the same, we have not yet talked about infinite lists, but even if you take the same infinite list, it won't tell you yes. Okay, because it has to check every element. Okay, you can check it out on your this thing, but let us not talk about infinite lists now. I'm going to introduce it in the next class. Okay. Okay. Right. So if R day holds, then if A is an instance of type the class R, then you have all this less than or equal to, greater than, all these things are defined. So are these two functions. Min is defined and max is also defined. Okay. So you can compute min of two elements. Oh, I'm saying A and D here. I should correct this. And max is also defined. Okay. So you can compute the maximum of two elements. Okay.
Sir?
Yes, please. Yes.
Oh, never mind. I understood. Sorry.
And yes, sure. Ask me, please.
No, so I was going to ask you why you've written A arrow, A. You're comparing two things. That's why you.
Right, I'm comparing two things. Yes. If A is an instance of type R of the class R, then list of A is also an instance of R, because you can check two lists based on the lexicographic order, like checking between two words in a dictionary to see if which one occurs before. Okay. Similarly, pairs, etc. But you cannot extend ordering to functions as usual, function types. Right? So, in fact, if you want more information, in fact, this is a good point of time. Let's go to this data.
Sir?
Then that function is not foldable.
Yes, once more, yes.
So this A arrow B, the function, the constructor of the function. So that's not a foldable.
No, once more, sorry. Once more.
I'm asking if that is not a foldable because you can't extend order.
No. Foldable doesn't have anything to do with like order, etc. Foldable is something else. Foldable has to do with how lists work. We'll actually see foldable, etc. in some 2-3 classes. Don't worry, we'll come to it soon. Okay.
So how will
Foldable
we...
is all those type constructors that admit of a kind of a operation called a fold. We'll come to that later. Don't worry about it. Okay. But don't worry about foldable now. So we are just talking about ORD. ORD and foldable don't have anything to do with it. Okay. Yes.
How will we compare the pairs like under this folder?
Right. How do you compare the pair? If I give you x1, y1 and x2, y2, how will you compare them? You will first check whether x1 is less than x2. If so, you will say the first pair is smaller. If x1 and x2 are equal, you will then check whether y1 is less than or equal to y1 is less than y2. In which case, you will again say that the first pair is less than the second. If neither of these two conditions hold, then you will say that if they are equal, it's different. If you are equal, you will say that the two pairs are the same. Otherwise, you will say that the second pair is smaller than the first pair. Isn't that clear?
So it means they will check the first elements, the corresponding first elements of the pair.
No, once more. Sorry. Let me just write it out. X1 is less than or equal to, sorry, X1, Y1 less than or equal to X2, Y2. So, if and only if either or X1 is equal to X2 and Y1 is less than. Y1 is less than or equal. Is this clear?
Yes, sir. Yes.
And then you will say that the pair, or you can just say Y1 is less than. This is when you say that X1, Y1 is less than X2. If both X1, if X1 equals X2 and Y1 equals Y2, then you will say that the two pairs are equal. Otherwise, you will say that X2, Y2 is smaller than X1. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
That is how you extend order. Okay, but now let me come here.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, I mean, like, this is what Haskell does, right?
Yes, that is what Haskell does. Yes.
Okay, sir.
So does this matter like X1, Y1 written first and then X2, Y2? Like this ordering matters or not?
No, I didn't understand your question. Can you repeat?
Like, what if X2 is greater than X1 and Y1?
Yeah,
is
then you
less
will
than-
say that the other way holds, right? So then the same conditions will hold for X2, Y2 compared with X1, Y1.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so let us now. Yeah. So so I'm back here. This is the library information. Okay, you can go to this Haskell hierarchical libraries, search for it, and you can go there, or it will be part of your installation itself. You can go there, and even if you go to any type, let us say data.int, let us say, just or data.bool, doesn't matter. Right? Immediately you see that there are these. At the very beginning, you will see that it gives you. So it's better to go to data.int. At the very beginning, it will give you all the type classes that this type belongs to. IUJK. Yes. So you'll see that int belongs to all these type classes: bounded, enumerable, EQ, integral, numeric, orderable, read, real, show, etc., etc. You don't need to worry about all these things. Let us just look at some basic things. Okay. Even I don't know all these things. Let us first look at EQ. Okay. If you click on EQ, that will now talk about the class EQ rather than the type INT. Okay. Here they have defined the class equality. Okay. You see that they have written that class EQ where, okay, it says minimal complete definition. Any type, for a type to belong to the class EQ, it should support either equal to or not equal to. Why does it say it should support either this or this? Because the other, so you can define x not equal to y by not of x equal to y. Okay. So therefore, if you have the definition for equal to, then you can derive not equal to. If you have the definition for not equal to, you can derive equal to. So it suffices to have one of these two things. Okay.
So that is why infinite lists are in EQ.
Because not equal to, you can define this.
Because not equal to, it's or, right? That's right.
Yeah, but even otherwise, yeah, you can define anything. Haskell, okay. So the point is Haskell, okay, these are the two things. And then the thing is that Haskell automatically puts various types under this equivalence class. Oh, not equivalence class, under this class. Haskell automatically installs various types to belong to this class. Okay. For instance, it says bool belongs to this class. Bool belongs to EQ. Yes. And car belongs to EQ. It says the type double belongs to EQ. And for some reason, the functions are given here. Okay. And it gives you any special cases that might arise. Things like 0 divided by 0 is not a number. NaN, it says. So basically then you are asking that you should also satisfy these properties. If you check x against x, you should always get true. This need not always happen, you see, because if you check the same list against the same list, in case they are infinite, you will never get an answer. Okay, so we can check that here. Infinite list 1 dot dot equals 1 dot dot. Yes, you will never get a reply. You will never get a response. On the other hand, if you say 1 dot dot equal to 2 dot dot, you will immediately get a reply saying false. Okay, and if you say 1 dot dot not equal to 2 dot dot, again now you will immediately get a result saying 2. Right? Okay. Anyway, so it says this. It says okay, double, float, various types belong to the class int. EQ int. Various types belong to the class EQ. Int belongs to the class EQ, and then you have all kinds of integers. Integers 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit, 64-bit. Actual integer. Yes, who's asking what question?
Sir, I was just asking, since Haskell is capable of comparing infinite lists, shouldn't it be able to compare functions from integers to integers? Because they're essentially just infinite lists.
It assumes that it cannot do so. Okay.
Okay.
Because even infinite lists, you cannot always give results, right? So
right.
Okay, so you see that lots of instances of EQ, all kinds of types are there. Okay, you don't need to understand all these. I don't understand more than some 4 or 5 of these, so you don't need to worry. But here, see, this is another thing. If A belongs to the class EQ, list A belongs to the class EQ. If A belongs to the class EQ, maybe A belongs to the class EQ, etc., etc. If A belongs to the class EQ, pairs will belong to the class EQ. Okay, that will come later.
So I think you missed it. So it went up.
Yeah, here. If EQA and EQB, for instance, here they have installed something like this even. If EQA and EQB, then you see that EQ, A, B, C, D, E, whatever. EQA, EQB, EQC, EQD, EQE, then EQ of quintuples, as they are called. They are installing all these definitions. Here you have somewhere up there you have this definition. But if EQA and EQB, then you have EQA come up. The pair, not here. This is triples. Yeah, here. They might even tell you how. Yeah. So and you can go and check how they do it. They'll define it by equivalence class by checking the first coordinate first and then going to. Is it clear about EQ? You can similarly do something about ORDS. You can check ORDS. ORD is a richer type class, and since it is a richer type class, fewer types belong to it. This you should remember, right? Richer type class means it offers more functionalities. Therefore, fewer types will satisfy all those functionalities. Right? So if you go back to data.int, if you go back to the type int, then you will also see that ORD int. Let's go to ORD. You say that you see here that ORD has just 2 things are enough. Either you give less than or equal to, or you give this operation called compare. Okay. Once you have less than or equal to, because you already have equal to, you can check for less than, and then you put the negations appropriately. You can get also greater than or equal to, etc., etc. Not equal to, everything you have. Okay. And compare is another way of getting with the same thing. And compare will actually give you, take 2 elements of type A and return something called ordering. That's a type. That type has only 3 values: LT, EQ, and GT. Tells you whether less than holds or EQ holds or greater than holds. Okay? Let's not bother about it right now. The point is this, that you have all these things and you have min and max as well. Okay. And as usual, they'll say that if you can order A elements of the type A, you can order elements of type list A. If you can order elements of type A, you can order elements of type maybe, and so on. And here you will see that you have installed various definitions for basic types. Order, there is an instance of order for bool, for char, for double, for float, for int, etc., etc., etc. Okay. Is it clear? So now you can say that, you can see that now, let me go here, back to the slides. So are you clear with EQ and ORD? So these are, yeah, so they are type classes which cover a vast array or vast collection of classes, types. Okay, let's come to this function, for instance. Sum of empty list is 0. Sum of x colon x is x plus sum of x. What type do you do to this? You can say int, you can also say integer, you can also say float. Why? Because you can say that this has the type of anything that, any type that supports the function plus can be the type of the elements in this list. Okay, and that you all that you require is that plus should be defined on the list elements. That is given by the type class num. Num A says A is a number. Okay, and so says that values of type A is a number and support basic arithmetic operations. Okay, so the correct typing for sum is num A implies list A or OA. Yes, and here I have just summarized the thing. If your type A belongs to the class num, then it has the following definitions: plus, minus, star, negate. Negate will give you the negative. So if you give it the positive value, it will give you the negative value. If you give it the negative value, it will give you the positive value. Then abs, which will give you the absolute value. Whether you give it the positive or negative, it will give you the positive value. Signum is a function that it tells if the input is negative, in which case it will return -1 as the output, or 0, in which case it will return 0 as the output, or whether it is positive, in which case it will return +1. Okay, this is just to figure out the type. Finally, it has a from integer, which will convert an integer to this type. Okay, so you can always give it a, so some of the exercises that you had to do, you might have had to convert something from integer to some float or whatever, and then convert it back to integer. So there is always this function. From integer, you can convert to any numeric. Okay. Importantly, no division operation. Why? Because there are two kinds of division operations, as you know. You can either do the proper division and give a floating point value as a result, a real number as a result, or you can do division and just give the device the quotient and remainder. Okay, basically. So that is.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, can you go back to this slide? Like all these are the properties which are to be satisfied by
any type that belongs to the class.
Okay, sir.
Not properties that are to be satisfied. All these are the functionality that should be provided on any type that belongs to the class.
Sir, I didn't get why division is not in float.
That is because there are two kinds of divisions. I'll come to it in a minute. Okay.
And
before that, let me go to num. Okay, let me go and show you num. Is the font okay, or should I increase the font size? Since it's only on the browser, I can increase the font size. You're able to see it, right? Where was I? Oh. No. What did I do? I wanted to go to num. Sorry. Okay, so num gives you plus times absolute value signum, which says give me the sign of the number from integer, and either negate or binary minus. Okay, minus is subtraction, or negate. So if you have negate, you can get subtraction by doing plus of negate of that number. A minus b is a plus negate b. If you have the binary minus, how do you get negate? Negate away will be
Zero
what?
minus A.
0 minus A. Yeah, okay. Signum, sign of a number. So it satisfies the fact that absolute value of x times gives you the absolute value. This is the sign of the number, and you can actually check this. Go here to GHCA and ask signum of minus 500. Let's say it returns minus 1. Okay, signum of 0 will return 0. Signum of plus 500 will give you 1. Okay, and abs, you know, abs of minus 500 will give you 500. Okay, great. Negate of minus 500 will give you 500. Okay, so these are all the functions, and yeah, so you also automatically Haskell in the basic the Haskell basic libraries will already install, the Haskell system will install various types as numeric types, double, float, int, integer, etc., etc. All the standard things that you expect are numeric types. But you see that char, gear, etc. is not here because you cannot add 2 characters. Okay, even though for characters you have a notion of order, etc., etc. You cannot just add 2 characters. Okay. Yes.
So when we apply the plus operation on num type, then there are some numbers which have infinite like decimal representation. Then how Haskell like do the?
No, not infinite decimal. It won't have. So internally, nothing has infinite decimal representation. It will only have finite. It will truncate after a point.
So how many places?
64 bits. So for that you need to know about real number representation. So you can just check. So if you type something like 1. Okay, so you see so many things are there. Okay, it cuts off after a point. There is some amount of precision, and you can ask for the type of 1/3 double precision. I think it will give you. Oh, it's just giving you a fractional A. Okay, but you can ask 1/3 double. You can ask. Yeah, that's what it is. 1/3 float. You can ask. Yes, you see. If you ask double, it gives you more precision. If you float, it gives you. Yes. So
yes,
those numbers and all you can see. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Yeah. This is about num. And then integral. Let's look at integral. Integral is where you first say that okay, this is all numbers because it will have plus, times, minus, and what was the other thing with that? Signum, the absolute value, all those things. But it also has a notion of integral division, which means that you divide a number by another number, there is a notion of a remainder and there is a notion of a quotient. Okay. So dividend, I suppose it's called, or divisor. Divisor, dividend, it's called one of the things. Yeah, dividend. You either get the dividend mod or you get the quotient remainder. So actually for integral, there are 2 functions. There are 2, sorry, these are all the functions that are quote rem is the function that you have, or so you have quote, you have rem. Quote stands for quotient, and this is integral division, but the thing is truncated towards 0. Okay, so for positive numbers, quote and div will work the same way because you are truncating towards 0 or towards negative infinity. It is the same thing. But for negative numbers, if the result is negative, then truncating towards 0 is opposite of truncating towards negative infinity. You can, so as an exercise, you take various values, okay, positive, negative. So 3 div 7, 7 div 3, minus 7 div 3, minus 7 div minus 3, 7 div minus 3. Try all this, and similarly try for quotient, and you'll see what the difference is. Okay, so and then you have quote rem, which will simultaneously give the quotient and remainder. Div mod, which will simultaneously give div and mod. To integer will convert an integral value to an integer. Okay, because every integral value you can show is sort of can be subsumed by integers. Okay, so
sir.
Yes.
Sir, what do we mean by truncate towards negative infinity?
Truncate towards negative means this. What I mean is this: that quote. What is the value of minus 7 divided by 3? Okay, first let us start this. 7 divided by 3, what should you get? 7 div 3, what should you get? What do you think you should get?
2.
2, right?
2.
No, not 7 by 3 will give you 2 point whatever. That's a real number. But if you do 7 div 3, it will just give you the quotient and remainder on dividing. That's all it will. You see? So this is the dividend. Okay, 7 div 3 is 2. And 7 mod 3 is what? You will only work with integral values like this. That is 1. Okay, good. Fine. Now what happens if I do minus 7 mod 3? Div 3. What do you think you should get?
-3.
Yeah. Should you get -2 or -3? That is the question. Let us
-3.
We should get
-3. Okay. So this this div mod thing ensures that mod value is always 0 or positive. It's always non-negative. Okay. Okay. Let us see what happens if you do this. Is so what is happening is that it is trunk. So -7 div 3. Okay. If you actually do -7 by 3, what will you get? Minus of 2.333 whatever.
So the div I
Now
think
there is a
takes
one second. Just give me a minute before I complete. You can either view it as -2 plus minus of 0.333 whatever, or you can view it as -3 plus 0.677 whatever. Okay, so that is what you are doing with div. That is what you mean by truncating towards minus infinity. Do you see the point?
Yes.
Instead of giving -2.33, you are giving -3. So you are going towards the minus infinity part, and then the mod will be the difference basically. Okay, whereas if you now do -7 quotient 3, you will only get -2. See, so it will always keep it as close to 0 as possible, and then your remainder will be a negative value, whereas your mod will never be a negative value. Yes. Okay, so this is the difference between quotient remainder versus div mod. Okay, you can figure out all this. So that is integral. Similarly, you have now things where you can divide. You call it fractional. Okay, int is not fractional, but if you go look at something called real or whatever, you'll have fractional. Let me just show you the thing in the slides, and I think I'm going over time. I'll stop in a bit. Yes, integral is all numerical types whose values are integers, supports integer division and remainder. So any type A belonging to the class integral has the following definitions. All these definitions. Okay, importantly, div mod quotrem and 2 integer. You can convert it to an integer anytime. Fractional is another type where you actually give fractional division. Okay, meaning you don't give number and remainder, etc. You don't give quotient remainder, rather you give the fractional value. Once you have come to fractional values, you also have a notion of reciprocal. Okay, recip is nothing but 1 divided by a number. Okay, so divisor, reciprocal. Obviously, it's okay to have one of the two, because if you have reciprocal, you can get divisor by doing A times reciprocal of B. That will be A divided by B. And then from rational, any rational number can be converted to fractional number, and rational is another type. Okay, rational is just a type that consists of pairs. You take pairs of integral values and treat them as a ratio.
So why does reciprocal has 2 arguments? It should have 1
reciprocal
argument.
only has 1 argument. Oh, sorry, my mistake. Reciprocal is only 1 argument. A arrow.
Okay.
That's a mistake. I'll fix it. Yeah? There are some 2-3 things I've noted. I'll fix them. Finally, you have a type called show. This is any type whose values can be displayed. Okay. Again, as usual, you cannot display a function because at worst case, you can only display the code of a function. But I mean, the same function can be defined in multiple manners. So function types cannot belong to the class show, but almost anything you think of will belong to the class show. Okay. But actually, sometimes what will happen is this: that if I go to GHCI and suppose I say factorial 25, I'll get some value. Oh, that's because that's See here, you already provided P satisfies. Why do you need equality for this? We're never doing any equality. But it's okay. They are saying it, so let's do it. Either 0 or non-zero. That's why you would need an equality. Okay. Okay. That's factorial. And let's reload this. Save this first. Okay, so you say factorial 25, you'll get some result. And then you want to do factorial of something else, but somebody, let me say, so I want somebody to give me your name. First name wins. Anybody? Mohammad Rizwan. Okay. So I want to type factorial 100 or some such, but Mohammad Rizwan interrupts me. Therefore, I forget it and I press enter. Okay. What happens? You see this. This is the error message you get. Why? Because GHCA internally tries to print whatever expression you type. It'll evaluate that expression and it'll try to print it. Okay. And to print something, you need it to be showable. Only those things that can be displayed on the screen you can print. Okay. So that is why I say here values that can be displayed on screen. Okay. And functions cannot be displayed on screen. Only code can be displayed on screen. So therefore, this is something that you will encounter often. It will say, oh, no instance for show integer arrow integer. Okay. Meaning that the function type integer arrow integer does not have a show instance. Right. But pretty much almost everything that you can think of, even infinite lists can be shown on the screen. Infinite lists can be shown by, because you can print them one after the other. Okay. But a function you cannot really, because you need to figure out what order to print them in, etc. etc. For lists, it is very clear. So basically, yeah, so it provides a printable representation for values of type A. So the point is that the capital S show is a type class. Any type small A that belongs to the type class capital S show will have will support a function called small s show. You can apply it at any point of time. So you can firstly go here and ask for the type of show, small show. It says, as long as the type A belongs to the class capital S show, then the small s show is a function of type A arrow string. So you can say show ABC, let us say. That's a string in itself. Great. It puts that string inside double quotes. Okay. But more this thing, if you say show 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 is a list of integers, but show 1, 2, 3 is a string. It has put the whole thing inside double quotes. You see the point? Show maybe, so show just 25. Just 25 is the value of type maybe something, but show of this is a type value of type string. So I can ask for type of it. It, remember, is the last expression that was evaluated. Type of it is just string. Yes. So yeah, so this is almost all about type classes. Yeah, so I can answer questions now, and then we'll meet in the next class, and I'll start a new topic. Infinite lists mostly. Yes. For infinite lists, I have to do something else, but I'll get to infinite lists, etc. in 2 classes, within 2 classes. Yes, please ask your question, Srimati.
Yeah. So when you wrote ABC as a string, why were there like those lines? I mean,
that is because I have these. There is a backslash. That is because you have the. How do you represent a string? You represent a string by putting a double quotes followed by whatever a list of letters, a bunch of letters followed by double quotes, right?
Yeah.
But then there is double quote occurring in ABC itself. See here. So how do you represent a double quote inside a string? You do it by putting a backslash. Backslash is called an escape character. So let me just write it here. Backslash is called escape. Escape means okay. So let me write it. So typically you will, okay, so you use as delimiters. Delimiters, let me just highlight that. For strings, meaning a string is any bunch of characters. A string is displayed by enclosing a bunch of characters within a pair of double quotes. But double quote itself is a character. That you can type on the screen is a character. So what if your string contains double quote? This is the point. Okay. Then to display, you have to say to display that you use backslash. Okay. So technically speaking, so if I go here and if I write, even if I write, let's say character A followed by character B, followed by character C, followed by the character consisting of double quote. Yes, you see what is happening? To display it will put backslash before the. Yes, right? So now you can actually say, suppose you want to say Father's Day. Okay, right. How do you present it as a list? You can say, okay, capital F, capital A, capital T, capital H, capital E. What do you do now? You need to put that single quote. Single quote is used to delimit letters. You want to, a letter is some typable thing you put inside a pair of single quotes. Now how do you write the apostrophe here?
Do you put a backslash?
Exactly, that's all. Yes, that's the point. Okay, so these are called escape characters. Okay, you escape, not escape characters. You use backslash to escape. This is called escaping. Okay. Anyway, so yes.
Sir, could you repeat the function toInteger once?
Right. toInteger will let's look at the type of toInteger. Yes. So for instance, you might have already declared some 23 to be of type. Let x equal 23 of type. Yes. So I can say what is x? It will say this type of x is. Now suppose I want to do factorial x. It works because factorial itself was the way I defined it. It was enum, ginum, whatever. But suppose I cut out this and say integer array. Sorry, I'm going over time, but I'll stop now. In 2 minutes. I'll answer this and I'll stop. Okay, so let me go back and install my. So let me not, instead of calling it x. Okay, great. So I have val is of type int. Suppose I want to do factorial int, factorial val. What do you expect will happen?
It won't
Error.
show up anything.
There will
I
be
mean,
an error because
so it is
the
not
type
giving
of
it as an integer.
factorial expects integer, whereas val is of type int. So what will you do? Yes, this is the purpose of two integer.
Okay, so I mean, two integer function changes the type
Yeah,
of
type
the
from,
two
but
integer.
it has to, yeah, it will change any integral type to integer.
Okay, okay.
But
Yes,
you
yes.
can't go and change a real some other type to integer, because then you will lose information. You will
Okay,
lose,
okay.
yeah. Any
Okay,
integral type is subsumed by integer, so you can always, you're just changing the type, you're not changing anything about the value.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So are there functions called to float or from float or something?
No, that is what you had. From two fractional or whatever there was. Two rational or whatever something was there. Yes. Okay.
So I didn't get
No. If you want to use a float, you have to, for instance, yes, again, if you want to use a float thing, etc., you have to use from integer. Okay, it will convert it from integer to whatever you want. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I didn't get what we mean by like a function can't be displayed or stored.
How do you display a function? What do you mean by displaying a function?
For particular value, it can be displayed like
For a particular value, it will display, but then it's not a function. No, it is a function applied on a value. Factorial val it displayed. Now factorial of 2 integer value. Factorial 20 it will display. Factorial itself it will not display. What do you mean by displaying factorial?
Like if we restrict the type to
then
the,
it is not a function. No, then it is a value. Oh, what are you saying? If you restrict factorial to only certain inputs.
int like int has the bound, so like it can show
No, it won't still, because then to display it has to compute every value, no? And computing, then you don't know when it will terminate, etc., etc. There is no real this thing. If you really want to do it, you should do it this way. Then I mean, you should say factorial n, give your this thing 0.100.
Yes, sir.
Do this, then that's fine. Yes.
Yes, sir.
It will now display everything. Yeah. So there are other ways of doing it, but not directly as a function. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, great. Yes. Thanks for patiently sitting for 20 minutes extra. Hope things are reasonably clear. Please don't ever hesitate to ask me questions. And,
are there any constraints for unsigned types?
Huh?
Are there constraints for 0 or more unsigned?
0 or more. Unsigned int or whatever you mean. No, what do you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, you can check I have shown you the pages now. You have checked. Even I haven't done any unsigned inside and all. If you want, you can check that. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Then I think somebody had a question at the start of the class to discuss something about average case now. Yeah, we can discuss it later. Yeah, because that's not urgent for this. And anyway, we don't want to put off all the other students.
Yes, sir, I had a question. Hello.
Yes, Rumta.
So it's like in the code, it's like you had like for the factorial, it's like the class constraint was like EQA, comma.
I had then removed it later. At some point of time it was there. Then I removed it. Okay, but your question is, what is your question? No, I made it integer.
Is it was that like like putting two class constraint on A, or like?
Yeah, it is putting two constraints on A.
Okay.
A belongs to the class EQ and it also belongs to the class num. Then do this.
Okay. That I had a confusion with that.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know why it has to do that though. I thought somehow that num means that you can always check. Numeric types can always be checked for equality. Okay. Great then. Yes. So I hope things are clear. So please write to me or to the TAs or ask us anytime, any doubts you have. See you next week. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Chairs.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Sure.